Okay, we're back in the garage. Obviously, we don't have the Bronco anymore. I liked the Bronco a lot. I thought it was a good car. You know, it was fast. Off-road, it performed very well, but there was some safety issues that kind of came up with that car. We had the windshield, windshield recall, and then we also had the seatbelt recall, which they fixed. It was just like the seatbelt light wouldn't work, which is just a sensor, and then the windshield would leak. All of which Ford fixed, but we got rid of it actually because my wife was scared of the crash test that was, I don't want to say leaked, but she ended up finding the crash test for the Ford Bronco. I don't think it really matters if it's a soft top or a hard top. Obviously, I think the soft top would suck a little bit more, but she ended up seeing that and how not safe it was. It pretty much turns the Bronco into a tin can, which we kind of already knew because Ford makes all their stuff out of aluminum, like my truck, right? Everyone calls it an aluminum duty, whatever you want to call it. But same thing with the Bronco. You know, like there's not a whole lot of support there or safety for your family. So her seeing that kind of ruined it for her, and then it was loud because we did have the soft top. So I guess this will be our 2-year review and also why we got rid of it before we officially hit that 2-year mark. So those two things right there were big ones for her. We ended up having more room in the trunk, in the back part, than we did in the first Range Rover that we had. And I'll go over this car and what we're gonna do to this thing now, but let's go over the Bronco. It rode really well. The tires were surprisingly quiet on the highway for being stock tires. It is an all-terrain tire, pretty meaty all-terrain tire, but it's super nice that it's quiet. It is a 35 and it turned. Gosh, that thing turned so well. As far as like a U-turn, that trail turn assist was awesome, where it would lock the rearmost inside tire and you could turn on a dime. If you were in 4-wheel drive though, trying to do that, it sucked. It felt like you were grinding the gearbox. So I'd kind of advise against that. But that was actually really sweet. It turned really well on the trail, handled really well. We did end up lifting the Bronco. If you haven't seen that video, we lifted it 3 inches and we kicked the tires out, I believe, 1 or 3/4 of an inch. I wish I would have done an inch. We should have done a 3/4 on the back and a 1-inch spacer on the front, because when you lift anything that's independent suspension, if you lift it without dropping the front diff, you're gonna automatically suck in the wheels just because you're pushing everything down. So it's gonna camber in, and if you don't drop the differential to bring it back out, it's gonna suck it in to the innermost part of the wheel well. So it is gonna give that illusion of it's not level with the rear of the vehicle. So if you are trying to put a spacer on like we did, you're gonna want a 1/4 inch difference from the rear to the front. So you need more in the front. So if you did 3/4 in the back, you're gonna need 1 in the front. So that's what we did to it for aesthetics. We didn't do anything performance-wise to that car other than the K&N intake, which I did also a video on. And that was just for really no power gains at all. It's just easier to maintain because you're not constantly replacing a paper filter over and over and over. So you just have to wash it and then oil it again, which, you know, is, I guess, harder to maintain, but in the long run, you end up saving money because you can just replace it whenever you want instead of having to go change a filter. But it was, I don't want to say stupidly loud on the highway, but it is definitely, compared to something like this, which is an enclosed cabin, hard, I don't even want to say a hard top, but like normal SUV or even my truck is like significantly quieter. And you could do a road trip in that thing. I had a Camaro that had some pretty serious mods to it that was loud, and I road tripped in that, so it wasn't quite that loud compared to that, but still, for being a family vehicle, I think it was too loud. It didn't have any vents that faced the kids for the back, which was another downside. So like in the summertime, or not summertime, wintertime was the worst, because you would get in the Bronco if it was parked outside, and it would be super cold because of the soft top, so it doesn't seal as well as a hard top. And there was no vents on like the, whatever this A-pillar facing the kids, and there was nothing in the center console facing the kids. So to keep the back of that warm was kind of a struggle. We always just carried blankets in. Obviously, I know this is some stuff that you have to deal with when you buy that kind of vehicle. It's the same thing with like a Jeep. It's just stuff you're gonna miss out on, right? Like, it was intended to be a off-road vehicle, not necessarily a family vehicle, but those are just some of the reasons why we got rid of it. I think it did get really good fuel economy. We had the 2.7 liter EcoBoost, which was the biggest one you could get at the time. Still, I think it's the biggest one you could get, unless you get the Raptor. The Raptor might have a bigger one now, but that 2.7 did really good. I had an F-150 with that engine, and it works really well, surprisingly. We never towed with it, so I couldn't speak on towing capabilities, even though we did order it with a tow package on it. I would imagine you wouldn't be towing that much weight with it anyway. It was just kind of an emergency situation if we needed it, but it definitely has the power to do it. And it having tall gears like it did, right? It had four 10s, I want to say. It's either 4 10s or 3 7.3s. So it was pretty quick, geared very tall. So, the fuel economy didn't suffer that much because it was a 10-speed. I think we were averaging like 18 miles to the gallon, and we'd get 20 something on the highway. But in between the highway and the city, we were chilling right about 18. Obviously, if you drive like an 8-hole, it's gonna get worse. But that's how we were with that. Besides that, it was a great car, man. It just wasn't good for our family, right? You had a decent amount of legroom for the kids with the car seats. It had a good trunk space, but moving to this thing, we have more legroom and more trunk space, and we have the vents in the A-pillars, vents in the side, so that's good. Sound system is a huge one. The sound system in the Bronco sucks. I don't care what anybody says about if you get the upgraded, what is it? Bang & Olufsen, I think, is the one that you can get in it. It still sucks. It doesn't compare to like a normal SUV at all, and I know you can't really compare it to that at all. Just the acoustics is a completely different animal, because you got sound escaping. You're trying to feel vibrations that you wouldn't feel in a car like this or in my truck, but the sound system was terrible. I hated that. The seats, even though we did have the seats tinted, or the windows tinted, the seats would get unreal on how hot those things would get in the summertime. You'd almost burn your legs. That's only if you had the top off. So if you had the top off and it was beating down on the seats, they'd get hot. I know that's probably just common sense, but I figured I'd put that out there for you to kind of just acknowledge that if you get the leather seats, or even what we had, which was like the waterproof vinyl or whatever it was, it's still going to get stupidly hot. So if you're going to have the top down all the time, I would advise against either seat covers or buying a Bronco that has cloth seats. That'll save your skin, I promise. But besides that, that's really my only gripes, how we liked it. We ended up with a new Range Rover, so we'll talk about this in a later video. But if you guys have any questions about that Bronco, just drop me a comment, and I usually get back to you within a day, and we can answer anything. I can make another video on it too if you want. Unfortunately, I don't have access to the Bronco. I still have access to the Ram 2500 if you want a video on that. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Like always, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Let me know if you have any questions or if you want to see anything else. Thanks.